Okay, chat, I think it's time to give our final thoughts and reviews for Aria. I will say, I went in with kind of a negative impression because I had played the sequel, and I will just upfront say I really did not like the sequel. So coming into Aria, after coming through a few rough games in the Advanced Collection, I have to say I was actually pleasantly surprised. I feel like for the most part, the castle had a really good flow. I think the graphics were fine. We're listening to the best song in the game by getting into Julius mode. In terms of other things, how the game felt, even though I couldn't do some of the advanced mechanics of damage canceling, or not damage canceling, backdash canceling, or maybe not necessarily even land canceling some of our moves, I felt like it was still mostly fair. I like that that's there for people looking to kind of technically get into the game, especially from the speedrunning standpoint. We didn't bother going for all soul drops. We ended somewhere around 25 souls. I didn't specifically count. So, it is what it is. I do feel like there are certain things where the difficulty was just like slightly off. And I will say when we went to death in Clock Tower specifically, that fight felt much harder than almost any other fight in the game, shy of like the true ending fights. I don't know why that boss did so much damage and had so much health. Like, it really did not make any sense. Especially given, like, we found hidden weapons. Like, if I did not find a hidden weapon leading to that boss, I would have been doing so much less damage. Like, it was a difference of almost 25 points of damage a swing. And given that that boss had several thousand health and we're only doing, I think, at 61 with, like, a good weapon, like, I don't even want to know how long that boss would have taken. Now, granted, there is an imbalance with the souls. We saw that, we call them the rush souls, but ones that transform you and make you go forward, they do a lot of damage. About halfway into the game, you come across the best sword in the game. And while the game had generally been pretty good at giving you gradual increases or improvements upon previous weapons and armor, it kind of throws that away for a one-off puzzle room and kind of invalidated its own scaling, which is kind of sad. The true final weapon is so good that honestly you don't even need damage souls at all to beat the game. It is just that powerful. I think from a design standpoint, it is interesting to force the player to potentially get things that heal you in order to get the true ending. So the game is trying to build in like a safety mechanic. I still was not a fan that you had to get specific souls to get the true ending. I didn't really like that. We didn't, as I said before, I really don't like grinding for souls. So that still rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't like it. I know other people complain about getting access to something called Black Panther, which is fast movement in this game. You do not get that unless you are going through for the true ending of the game, so that is extremely late into the game. So I think it would have been more interesting to see that earlier. We didn't get to see Dive Kick. We could have had Dive Kick through the game. I know that's a good mobility option, but again, I really don't like that some of that requires some farming for it, so that part of the game, not so good. In terms of everything else, I feel like the difficulty was about right. I feel like save rooms were mostly generous. I think there's only a couple points in the game I feel like they could have moved a save room somewhere. I think that was specifically the underground, because we went through, I'm gonna call it the Starman room, where there was no healing at all in that entire detour, where we went up his arm, his head, his other arm, his leg, went out, then we had to go all the way down, then we went over, then we went down, then we went left, then we found a save. That's a really long time to go without a save, and it was kind of reminding me of Dissonance, and I was like, please don't make me go that long without a save. I really don't like that. But other than that, I think it had a decent shop, not anything too crazy in terms of power, but it gave you everything it needed. It was right near a healing point. You could restore your MP very easily by talking to the NPCs there. I think the ability to replenish potions and high potions, depending on what bosses you've completed, really good design. And I think because of the fact that warps are placed about where you would exit if you do bosses of the area, I never felt like I was ever truly lost, and I never ever felt like I was low on healing items. Like, granted, I did decently well throughout, but like even if people are not feeling as confident in their Castlevania gameplay, I feel like it was still very generous. So I would say even from a casual standpoint, I would probably recommend this game overall. Would I play this game again? Maybe? I feel like there weren't any extremely hideous bosses. Like, if we think about bosses that kind of ruin my mood, like, definitely Circle of the Moon's final boss makes me never want to touch that game ever again. Dissonance, I really did not like the castle layout at all, so I would not want to go exploring that place again. Randomizer or no. This one, it's kind of interesting. I would maybe consider doing a randomizer of this one in the future. Granted, we didn't really get a lot of experience with the souls, but maybe that would balance out not having claim for like the whole game, aka the best weapon in the game. We didn't do the boss rush mode. I know you could get some decent items out of it if you complete it, depending on if you get first through third. Really not relevant to our playthrough. I'm not really concerned or interested in any of those. Yeah, the scaling, like, it was doing actually fairly well with the scaling, and I think for the most part, it was following the recommended, I would say, item placement, where the idea behind item placement in a game is if an item is weaker or is like a consumable, you put it in the player's path. Like, they might not be able to immediately pick it up, but they could see it. And then they can make the conscious decision, do I need that to continue forward? Do I need to pick up that life max in order to act as like a temporary save? And I feel like most of the game followed this philosophy, where if I did go out of the way, most of the time I got a noticeable improvement for equipment, and or I got a soul out of it. So it wasn't perfect, but it was much better than some of the other Castlevania Advance games did, where Circle of the Moon, absolutely no purpose to exploring whatsoever. What a waste of time. And then there are certain points in Dissonance where you would just end up with a really strong set of armor, and then there's no point to exploring anymore. Kind of like this game to some extent. But it also had a lot of weird dead ends. I will say I was not a fan of the true ending dungeon where you couldn't refer to a map. That one had an extraordinary amount of dead ends. That was not really all that fun, to be honest with you. Unfortunately, it wasn't too bad. So, like, would I consider it again? Maybe. I don't know how it would do against the final boss without the overpowered weapons. But I think I did okay for first playthrough. We had one death, I think, to death. And then we died on purpose for an ending. So, I mean, it's just like, it was probably slightly on the easier end. Like, it probably could have been slightly harder throughout, with the exception of death. I do feel like death was a really random power spike, and it made me question if I did something out of logic. Because that boss just felt so much harder. Even compared to the bosses after him. Honestly, even the bosses after him were really easy, comparatively. Because being able to just on-demand know when to slide or do the double jumps, and he puts a hitbox between you and him, is really brutal. To me, it's like, he's definitely the hardest fight in the game outside of, I will not spoil, but part of the true ending path. That fight was very interesting and different, and I like that from a mechanic standpoint, that it was kind of like a role reversal, and that's all I'll really say. Yeah, I don't know. Like, did the game think I was like level 15 when I got there? Like, did it think I was like 7 levels higher with more damage? Because I'm telling you, I was doing like no damage to him, and that was with a hidden weapon. I don't know. It felt very weird to me in terms of pacing. Worst area in the game, Clock Tower. It had the hardest boss in the game in normal playthrough for me, for sure. And it also had the absolute worst combination of spikes, Medusa heads, and other things. That area was just horrendous. Oh my gosh, learning that you can't learning you can't drop down through the gears and you instead slide was a very painful lesson to learn. I almost died doing that, which sucked. Other than that, I do recommend it. It was pretty fun casually. It looks like it'd be pretty fun to do from a speedrun standpoint. I will say, if you're looking to 100% clear, this game does look really tedious. I'm going to be real honest with you. There were a lot of enemies that just refused to drop souls, even though we killed them upwards of probably 40, 50 times. Like Valkyrie, for example, or there was that one rare enemy after the boss room. That looked really annoying to get. There's an enemy that I think required us to have time stop to even damage. It just, So from a I want to complete the game standpoint, I don't know. At least it gives you the ability to find hidden rooms if all you want to do is 100% map clear. But I'm gonna let you know, I have no interest in it whatsoever. But maybe you do. And if you want to collect 112 souls ish, then by all means do that. I will not partake. So I guess any other final thoughts? Chat, you can feel free to put your final thoughts in the video. I'm just gonna think about if there's anything else I missed. We're gonna listen to this amazing, I think the song's called Heart of Fire. Sadly, I know that if you play it, I'll want 100% it. I don't look forward to that. Yeah, I will state, actually, this is important to state in the review for people deciding whether or not they play the game. If you do decide to play the game, please be well aware luck stat is not worth increasing whatsoever. It is borderline useless. However, the rare ring in the shop does work. So that is kind of nice. Games seem pretty fun. Hopefully they do a game as Julius someday. Maybe. That's what a few people have been asking for. Julius does seem very overpowered, so not a bad extra mode. Like, you think this one was better than Dissonance? I hope so. I think you like Circle the most of the three. Interesting that you say that. That is a very divisive opinion, I will state. Yeah, I had fun with Circle up until Final Boss, I will state. But we'll see. So anyway, chat, don't really have anything else to say other than hope you enjoyed the game and, you know, give it a shot. But from now, I guess we'll say so long to the review. So if you've been listening in, thanks for watching, and hope to see you again next time.